Old Grognard says, let's learn about how turning undead worked in Second Edition AD&D. When I first heard the term turn undead, I interpreted it being like turn invisible. I imagined this cleric class that I had heard of being able to turn into an undead thing. How did this work? What cool undead powers did you get? Shortly thereafter, I learned that this meant the cleric could repel undead with their holy symbol, like in an old vampire movie, and I was a bit disappointed. That was until someone actually did it in a game I was in. Let me explain. This is how turning undead worked in Second Edition AD&D. Turning undead was resolved using the Turn Undead table on page 103 of the player's handbook. It looked like this. When a cleric used their action to turn undead, the player would roll a d20 and consult the column for their level. This roll was for all of the undead the cleric was attempting to turn, and the cleric could only turn undead once per encounter. This determined how powerful of undead the cleric was eligible to turn, and not how many. That was resolved separately. So if we had a 5th level cleric, they would roll using the 5th level column, and the higher they roll, the more powerful undead they can turn. If there's a dash, that means they can't turn those types of undead at this level. If there's a T, that means that type is always eligible to be turned when they determine how many undead they turn. How many undead we turn is resolved by rolling 2d6. The weakest type would be turned first, then the next weakest, and so on. This was until we either turned as many undead as the 2d6 roll said, or ran out of eligible undead. So even if you had some left of the 2d6 total, if the next type of undead was ineligible, then you didn't turn them. The D that you see on the right side means destroyed instead of turned, and the asterisk means an additional 2d4 undead of this type are turned. This is resolved either before or after the 2d6 is resolved, depends on the DM. Paladins were also able to turn undead in the same way that a cleric does, but as if they were 2 levels lower. So for instance, a 5th level paladin would turn undead as if they were a 3rd level cleric. Evil clerics couldn't turn undead, but they could control them instead. They used the same table and rolled the same way, but a turned undead instead became friendly to the cleric and followed their commands. A destroyed undead would instead become dominated, where the cleric would have absolute control over it until it was turned, commanded, or dominated by someone else. Evil clerics could also turn paladins. They used the paladin's level as the hit dice over on the left side of the column and rolled as if they were 3 levels lower. So a 5th level cleric would roll to turn paladins using the 2nd level column. At higher levels, a T and the D both just meant automatic turn. They didn't get to automatically nuke paladins. That's pretty much how turning undead works in 2nd Edition AD&D. It works almost the same as far as I know in earlier editions as well. Cleric of Ceiling Cat and I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of your day.